Welcome back everyone. This is the second part of my video on adaptivity. And I would like to speak about two different types of adaptive learning systems and two characteristic representatives, which I happen to be more familiar with. There are more, like over 20 different providers. But first let's speak about Smart Sparrow, a company from Australia. Here you have each, as an instructor, more control over the adaptivity. You set it up, you select the learning path that each student will take, you design it, and also you provide different kinds of feedback. And how that happens I will show you in a second. So let's go back to their dashboard. That's what it looks like. Of course, there are different types of design you can add, but I don't have any of that here yet. We can insert different widgets and different components that we would like to use. That's the components like drag and drop and progression bar, text highlight, which is very important if we are learning some kind of grammatical constructs. For example, past tense, highlight the past tense. But here I just set up a very simple multiple choice question just to kind of showcase that. Maybe that's not the best type of question we would ask, but just to show that here's a multiple choice question for Russian. The correct one is bird, and we have the correct state. That's the answer to that multiple choice question, and we would enter bird because bird is what's correct. And bird is correct, and if they meet that condition, they would maybe go to another slide. But then we can also add a trap state. We would say wrong, and for example, wrong answer. And what could happen is that they could actually select a choice is not bird, but is dog. And then we might give them a little bit more feedback and say, maybe even show them a little clip where somebody mentions a bird and says pizza. So just another example would be like what I already designed was from learning to type. And here we can play like that's a little demonstration of student trying to type with a timer actually. So to show you how that works, I will press on here, and here we have a dashboard to kind of see how that takes them through the learning path. So they have some time to type. If they manage to type, the menu, it says correct, which eventually will have audio, and they go to the slide. If they do that correctly, it's correct, they move to this, to number 17. On the other hand, if we go back to menu, and let's say they type incorrectly, that shows incorrect, gives them one more attempt. But another possibility could be that they go to menu, and they start typing, and they are not sure, they're typing, or typing. And the time is up, and they did manage to type the correct answer. So that takes them to another attempt. Now they try menu, and they get it right, and they progress. So this gives them each additional attempt to type, and it times them. Of course, eventually the timer will be more than 10 seconds, just for demonstration purposes is much easier. So see that time is up, and it sends them to that next one. So what happens here is that each student is given more attempts if they need to, but if they don't need to, they stay with what they have. This kind of testing could be useful for proficiency testing. For example, it could save a lot of time. If each student is given 5 questions for novice level. Of course, this is simplification. If they get none to one correctly, none of that is correct, only one possibly is correct. Then they test at novice or non-existent level, and they don't move on. They don't have to do all this section of the test. On the other hand, if they get 3 to 5 correctly, they progress to questions in intermediate level. And again, if they try to answer, they progress to intermediate level questions. They try to answer those questions, but they fail to answer too many of them correctly. 0 to 1 is correct. And then, of course, they can't, they're not intermediate yet. They're novice still. And they don't have to do the rest of the sections. On the other hand, if they answer intermediate questions correctly, 3 out of 5, at least they get a chance to progress into advanced. And again, if they answer 0 to 5 or 0 to 1 of advanced, they're still intermediate. They're not advanced yet. And only if they score like 3 to 5 of advanced, they qualify as advanced. Of course, this is a very, it's a simplification. We might want to give more questions, and of course, in different areas of proficiency, not just one. It's a basic schema, but it just explains how that could save some time and effort from the student point of view to, they wouldn't have to try to do level advanced or intermediate if they are not there yet. So, one thing I would like to throw out there is that adaptive systems they integrate with major learning platforms like Moodle, what we use at UCLA, and that could be useful, so it seamlessly integrates. It's just another part of the regular CCLE website that we are already so familiar with. And now I would like to discuss the second type of adaptive learning systems, which is much easier to use as an instructor. It doesn't require quite as much thinking in terms of learning paths and setting up those if statements, but it involves machine learning technology. So it's much heavier technology from the point of view of creation, not by the technological companies. It also uses a lot of that raw educational data and analyzes that. So as the student interacts with that system, the system learns from each individual students and predicts probabilities of individual success, but also makes suggestions and feeds tasks and times the time when each student gets that task appropriately. And authoring is very simple. One of such companies, for example, is Cerigo. And Cerigo, it measures and adapts to students' learning based on that data. And it also comes with a mobile app, which is very useful. And it's super easy to use and create, just as easy as the PowerPoint. Let me demo what it looks like inside of Cerigo. So if we try to create our content, we go to their main website, we just say Russian live, and that will be the topic. Let's say our categories, languages. I would just Russia, pick something, and then continue. So inside there, for an instructor, so the design is similar to a PowerPoint and has different categories. The first one is Inform. We can upload PDF, build a page, embed media. Also the section Retain, that works with memory. Has format of question and answer, flashcards, vocabulary, passages and regions, which could be useful for language learning. And then it has scenarios or patterns and sequences. That portion is rather useful for pragmatics or cultural competence. Yeah. So I will not go into detail of how it would be from a user point of view, just because that would require additional work. But creation is rather intuitive, in fact, yeah, Cerigo. And how they do that, I would recommend watching this YouTube video that comes from the Cerigo. The link is right here, and I would also be posting it together with my own videos. And in fact, that just gives us an idea of how it's made in terms of design and how it works with the student's memory and why it is effective. Yeah? So in terms of adaptive learning systems in general, what areas would I recommend using them for? Well, first of all, interpretative reading and listening. Those are pretty good to use adaptive learning systems for. Vocabulary practice, invaluable. It has shown that students retain vocabulary much better. And grammar exercises for languages like that have complex grammatical systems, like, for example, Hungarian or Finnish. It's very useful to do some exercises that help retain those skills. And also for writing, especially if we are working with a genre-based pedagogy, if we need to identify building blocks and key vocabulary of a text that is representative of a certain genre, we could use that identification inside of the adaptive learning system. What it's not ideal for is presentational speaking or community building. And that's why I would say presentational speaking and community, that's the portions that are best done inside of a classroom, face-to-face, inside of that flipped classroom, homework and tedious activities, adaptive mode at home, presentational speaking, valuable interaction in class with the teacher and with peer students present there. Potential of adaptive learning. What it could really help is reduce course dropout rates when students are not happy with that online portion, that it's too burdensome. Also more effective at achieving outcomes. Students can become better. And it's also more efficient. Students require less time. They don't need to come to class as often. And also teachers can focus more on what students need in class the most. And also, the adaptive learning system can focus on what students need right there as they interact with it. So that's the potential of adaptive learning system. And those are my references. And please also feel free to reach out. And the question is whether or not you would like to use it is up to you. But I just wanted to inform you that there is a lot of potential in using adaptive learning systems, especially for student populations that are diverse and that are also diverse in terms of proficiency and background, and making that online portion adaptive, individualizing it and making it a better fit for each individual student. That could make a difference. Thank you.